Purim feast, 1946. He hollered that out. Now that's kind of bizarre, because just like Haman, in the end, as Haman was hung, Stryker was also hung and found it out. You know what? You can't eliminate these people. You're not going to win. And just as it says in Esther, so they hung Haman on the gallows that he had prepared for Mordecai. And then was the king's what? Wrath pacified. Let's stop there for a second. What are we talking about tonight? We're talking about the judgment of God, the wrath of God. Let me tell you something. God is a just God. And any just king or any just judge would never let someone go free who had done a crime. What would happen if they took your daughter and molested her and then raped her and then killed her? And the judge says, well, you know what, it seems like you're a pretty decent person, and you say you won't ever do that again. Okay, well, you know, go on. We'll just forgive you. Would you think that's a good judge? No, because the judge don't do that. The judge has to be fair. The judge has to be right. Well, you know what I think is interesting? Just the first day of this month. I'll show you how contemporary this is. The very last words, we just found this out in the news, I think it was yesterday. The very last audio tape. What would you think he would talk about? The very last words that is recorded of him is why he hates Israel. This is his own words, accordingly and with the will of God, our attacks, talking to America, will continue against you as long as your support for Israel continues. And it was just a short time after that, the man is laying dead. Now, why is that important? Well, did you know, folks, of all crazy things, that Obama and Hitler both died on May the 1st? And did you know that is a Jewish holiday? It's a Jewish holiday in remembrance of the Holocaust, a day that is set aside to remember the plight of 6 million Jews being slaughtered by the Nazis. What is interesting about this is the fact that this very day, the noted Jew hater Osama bin Laden died. It's also the day that Jewish hater Adolf Hitler died. Both tried to rid the world of the Jews, but the Jewish people are still here, and bin Laden and Hitler are gone on the very same day. Now, like it or not, folks, no one has or ever will succeed in wiping out God's chosen people, the Jews. Because God has a plan for these people. And guess what? We call it what? A prophecy. You say, what do you mean, John? Did you know, folks, this is going to be hard to swallow? But prophecy is not about America. I hate to tell you this. When it talks about the kings of the East, it's not talking about people from New York. When it's talking about the armies from the North, it's not talking about people coming from Canada. Because the direction is Israel. Did you know that did you know that all writing points to Israel? Yes. If you look at Israel on the map, anything to the right of Israel, they write from the right to the left. Anything on the left of Israel, they write from the left to the right. It's like everything points to Israel. Israel is what it's all about. And that's what prophecy is about. See, that's why there's so much misunderstanding about the rapture and the tribulation. You know, Christians think they're going to go through the tribulation and somehow they're going to be made perfect through the tribulation. It doesn't. The tribulation has nothing to do with Christians. It's called the time of Jacob's trouble. Yeah. The tribulation is getting, those last 7 years have to be fulfilled because that's the last week of Daniel's 70th week. Yeah. 69 weeks have been fulfilled. Messiah was cut off, and there's been this great big space of time called the age of grace, the church age. But guess what, folks? That age is going to end with 7 years of horrific tribulation, and the whole focus of the tribulation and everything about the last years has to do with God's dealing with the Jews. Now, let me just say, somehow we might fit into that, but if we have anything, it's just going to be how we stand with Israel. And that's why we as Americans need to be very cautious about what we do. Now I'm going to shut up now and let you guys go home. But let me leave you with just a final thought here. Getting back to the story of Esther. Mordecai is her uncle, or I'm sorry, her cousin. And Mordecai is old enough to be her daddy. See, Esther was a little girl and her mommy and daddy were killed. And so Esther was taken away from her own parents. But Mordecai basically adopted her and treated her as his own child. And she was a beautiful woman. And as she grew and became a young lady, Mordecai was so proud of her and says, you know, you're just so beautiful and the Lord has spared your life, etc., etc. Well, they had never had any idea what would happen. Well, as she makes it to the second most important person in the kingdom, and it's just the way God does the Jews. It's just amazing. But it came out that they were going to kill the Jews. And word gets to Esther about this. And Mordecai says a very important statement. Now I want you to listen to what he says. He's looking at this little basic daughter of his and he says, darling, listen to me. Don't you dare think with thyself that thou shalt escape just because you're in the king's house more than all these other Jews. He says, for if thou altogether holdest thy peace at this time, you know what, darling? From somewhere else, God is going, there will be enlargement and deliverance arise to the Jews from some other place. Because God's going to take care of his own, but he says, I've got news for you, but thou and thy father's house shall be destroyed. And who knoweth, darling, listen, he says, who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Esther, do you think this is a coincidence? Do you think it's a coincidence that you are the king's wife? And you're in this position, and you're a Jew, and they're going to kill all these Jews, and look, he admires you and he loves you. Why don't you speak up for your own people? You have to stop and think, what would you and I do if we lived back during the World War II? When there were lots, guess what? There were lots of Christians in Germany. Lots of churches. That was a really powerful place historically. The Reformation started there and all kinds of great things. But you know, folks, the church, by and large, was silent. I mean, there were the Corrie ten Booms and who's the guy who wears the glasses? Dietrich Bonhoeffer. There were those, but they were few. But you have to ask yourself, what would you have done if you knew beforehand that there were going to be 6 million Jews killed? Well, the Bible tells us that part of our prayer life should always involve praying for the peace of Jerusalem. Yes. Matter of fact, God is so wanting you to do it, he gives you a promise. You know, a lot of these Christians into prosperity. Man, if you want to be in prosperity, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Now, listen to this, and this is so important that you hear this. This was a minister who ended up being imprisoned in concentration camps. He was a pastor there in Berlin, Germany. And this is what he says. It says volumes. You might have heard this before. He says, when the Nazis came for the communists, I remained silent. Because I wasn't a communist. So, well, they're going to do that to communists. I ain't going to say anything about it. When they locked up the Social Democrats, I remained silent because I was not a socialist. I didn't say anything. I didn't preach any sermons on it, didn't say anything about it, because hey, that's what they deserve. When they came for the trade unionists, I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. When they came for the Jews, I did not speak out because I was not a Jew.